Two things about Dan Campbell that people might underestimate. One, he's got a huge heart. It's why you often see his emotions, because he wears that heart on his sleeve. And then two, he's intelligent. Like, he is a lot smarter than people give him credit for. And certainly that's true in terms of X's and O's and scheming an offensive game plan. Let's not forget, this guy spent 5 years under Sean Payton, who's considered maybe the best offensive play caller in the NFL right now. And before that, under Bill Parcells. So he's been shaped by some really sharp football minds. But more than that, like, he has emotional intelligence. And it's something Jared Goff always says. He has such a keen ability to read a room and connect with each person in there and meet them wherever they are emotionally, to motivate them, to drive them, to get them to do what he thinks they need to do for the betterment of the team. So I know he might come across as gruff, and the kneecap sound bite has been played ad nauseum, but there is a deeper intelligence and emotion to Dan Campbell than I think he gets credit for.
Can I ask you real quick before we let you go? Will, when that clip came out, the we're going to bite kneecaps and all that stuff, like when that stuff goes viral, like when that happened, did you yourself kind of go, oh God, we hired just football bro brain
PC
guy
principal?
Yeah, and like how quickly, if you did feel that way, how quickly did he kind of sway you? Like, oh no, this dude gets the X's and O's, he gets the analytics of it. Like, this guy's more together than one soundbite would suggest.
I didn't have that initial reaction because I felt like Dan Campbell was talking to Detroit in that moment, and he didn't really care how everyone else perceived it across the U.S., different fan bases, different national media members, different players. He was talking to a town that has been kicked down so many times, and a town that used to be really proud and still is, but used to be viewed as sort of a capital of America. And for a long time now, it's been dismissed and it's been shoved into a locker, so to speak. And so Dan Campbell was just speaking to those people to let them know that he was going to coach a team and instill in his players a willingness and an eager to punch back. That's really what it was about when it came to, you can knock us down on the way up. We're going to bite your kneecap, and then we're going to bite your other one, because this is a city that has been kicked while it's down. And Dan Campbell decided that wasn't going to be the case anymore. And his players have really taken that personality on. Like, I think about Jared Goff this year when he kind of fired back, as you guys might remember, at Ryan Fitzpatrick, who called him a poor man's Matt Ryan. And Jared Goff is another guy who has been kicked while he's down. Like I said, he got tossed aside in L.A., and everyone in the NFL just agreed that because Sean McVay said Jared Goff was no good, Jared Goff was no good. And now he's punching back. And so the players that Dan Campbell coaches have really taken on his mentality of swinging back at people who say you're not good enough. And so that message he delivered was for Detroit and for his players, and it's resonated now 3 years later.
Yeah, great stuff. Will Birchfield, go give him a follow on Twitter, at Birchie_kid, 97.1 The Ticket in Detroit. I can't even imagine what it's like right now and what it's been going to be like, hopefully, for weeks to come.
Oh, jealous.
You got a couple of fans out here in Portland. You're welcome for Penei Sewell, by the way. Okay, I want an honorary ring.
Penei Sewell is a stud. I just got to say for Penei Sewell, what an absolute beast he is. I mean, you talk about someone who represents everything the Lions want to be under Dan Campbell. Funny story about Penei Sewell, he was out to dinner last week at a hibachi spot, and he ended up sitting next to Alex DeBrincat, the Red Wings leading scorer, who's a longtime Michigander and a Lions fan. And DeBrincat obviously recognized Sewell. Sewell had no clue who DeBrincat was. DeBrincat said he probably thought I was still in high school. So I asked Sewell yesterday if he knew. He said, no, I didn't. I feel bad, but I'll show him love next time I see him. And I asked him, has he ever skated before? And he said, I skated one time, and it was the worst experience of my life. The skates didn't fit, and I had no clue what I was doing out there. So besides maybe a lack of talent in hockey, Penei Sewell fits right in here in Detroit.
I love it, man. Thanks so much for the time this morning. Hopefully it's a magical ride for weeks to come. We'd love to catch up again next week if they win, and appreciate the time. Enjoy the game this weekend, man.
Thanks a lot, guys. Talk to you soon.
There you go. Will Birchfield. Good stuff on Detroit. It's one of those magical runs, man. I hope it continues for them. Well, you got a Bucks fan texting in. Oh, no, Dirt hates my team. I don't hate your team. I don't have any issue with the Bucks. I like Baker Mayfield.
It's just the better story is Detroit.
You just won a title 2 years ago with Brady. Like, you're going to be okay. This is the Lions' time, damn it. Hey, sometimes impulsive decisions are bad, but was it necessary this time? We'll get to that next on The Fan.
Who's stinking it up?
Woo! Do not go in there.
It's time for Who's Stinking It Up, a sports lowlight that's ripped from the headlines.
We couldn't do diddly poo.
Brought to you by Three Mountains Plumbing. Schedule your appointment online at threemountainsplumbing.com.
Jerry Jones won't do anything at all at head coach other than leave Mike McCarthy in place.
Yeah, there's Adam Schefter, Mike McCarthy. We haven't gotten to that today, thank God. He is back again, 1-3 in the playoffs and an ass whooping, but let's run it back.
Is he just a slightly larger, fatter version of Jason Garrett without the clapping? Because this feels like the same thing all over again.
Reports are Dan Quinn doesn't get a job. He's back, too, as the D coordinator. Let's just run it all the way back. Who's stinking it up? Jerry Jones and the Cowboys, brought to you by Three Mountains Plumbing. Make plumbing and electrical services delightful. Get your time back. Let the pros tackle those projects you need completed. Schedule an appointment online. Three Mountains Plumbing. That's threemountainsplumbing.com. Hey, everybody, Sprague here. In 2024, let's not overlook maintaining your home's
just letting it all hang.
All right, Ken Barkley coming up top of the hour. We'll get his thoughts on the divisional round of the playoffs. You got to it a little bit there in the break. I don't want to do a ton on this. Every national show is beating it. Beating the dead horse,
what
if
are
you
they
will.
beating?
They're
They're beating it?
didn't sound
Stephen
right.
A. Smith, what do you think of the Cowboys? I'm beating it. He actually probably would say that on his other podcast.
I think he would. By the way, we are live on YouTube now, so that's
In
up.
Spanish?
I guess.
Hola.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
I love getting on YouTube 2 hours into our show.
It's great, better late than never.
True.
Mike McCarthy lost in the playoffs again. He's now 1-3 as the Dallas Cowboys head coach. They have elected to keep him after 3 straight 12-5 seasons. We talked about this on our YouTube special show yesterday. I'm not surprised in the least. What was the reaction? Mike McCarthy back in Dallas. Let's do it again.
I'll put myself in it stupidly. I am surprised.
You are, yeah.
Like this guy, this old bag continues to act like every year that winning the Super Bowl is the end all be all.
And then he doesn't do anything to try and win the Super Bowl.
You just screamed to me that it's not, that it's about selling merch. It's about being on the national game so you can get the most eyeballs, screaming America's team, which by the way, I think they should be stripped of that. It's officially done. Get them the hell out of there. It's been 30 years. 30. What are we doing? It seems like a good group of coaches available, coaches that, and look, it's not just about a failure in a playoff game. Sometimes it's like, hey, it's the same thing every year. Maybe a new voice of leadership needs to be ringing in here. Again, great options as coaching candidates, even though I think Belichick to Atlanta seems like a done deal. And the fact that he watched that happen and then said, I just want to do the same thing again next year. Like, what's going to change next year? Seemingly all the important pieces are back. Dan Quinn might even be back if he doesn't get a head coaching gig. You just got embarrassed by the youngest team in NFL playoff history. And that's your solution? That's your scream of, I care about winning? We need to stop with this. This team doesn't deserve the attention they get.
No, they don't.
And I don't know why we keep giving it to them every single season, because they're going to be good again next regular season.
Yep.
They did not beat a team with a winning record on the road. I'm looking at it. They beat the Giants to open the season.
Well, we went through the schedule with Joe.
Yeah, I mean,
they beat up on the really crappy teams, and then they played the legitimate ones.
And they should have lost to the Lions.
And they should have lost to the Lions.
They finally got Philly late in the year. That was their feather in the cap win when they finally beat the Eagles, but they got blown out by the Bills. They got blown out by the 49ers. They lost to the Dolphins, who were not very good in the second half of the season. That was a bad, they're the same team every year. And this is what we tried to argue with Joe when he came in. And we're still waiting to have that conversation because the office has been closed all week.
It's really not a conversation, man. They got embarrassed, and they're bringing the coach back. Like Joe
I just
would
want
even
to know
tell
how
you
you
it
get to that
sucks.
place mentally of pretending as if like he was Jerry Jones this year. He pretended as if them losing in the playoffs to a rookie quarterback in Brock Purdy last year, who wasn't even that good in that playoff game, but they still were not good enough to win. Their thought process going into the offseason was, we don't need to change anything. That's what all they added was Brandon Cooks. Like, what else did Dallas do this last offseason? And we thought that it was going to be a different outcome this year.
They got rid of Zeke. He didn't get embarrassed again on that last play of the year.
They're going to do the same thing next year.
You know why I did what I did.
Yeah, they're going to win 11, 12 games. They're going to blow out a lot of bad teams because it's hard to win in Dallas in the regular season and the Star, and everybody gets blown. Oh, my God, the Cowboys. And then they're going to go to the playoffs. They're going to lose again. And Jason Garrett was there for 10 years. He went to the playoffs 3 times. He won 2 playoff games, and they just kept bringing him back every single year.
He only went 3 times in 10 years?
3 times. He's won more playoff games in Dallas than Mike McCarthy has in his 3 playoff appearances. Mike McCarthy now has 3 playoff appearances. He's won 1 game. Jason Garrett had 3. He won 2. I'll give him credit for that, but it's the same thing all over again. There's good offensive minds. Ben Johnson, go hire him. Like, retreading an old coach who doesn't have it anymore clearly is just a massive mistake.
Probably my favorite stat from the weekend last week that we didn't get to yet because this week's been weird for us weather-wise. Green Bay has more playoff wins in that stadium than the Cowboys do.
That's so good. I love it. So Mike McCarthy's back in Dallas, and that's all we're going to talk about the Cowboys because they're not America's team anymore. We got a lot to get to in the final hour of the show. I'm going to throw some NBA stuff at you in the final hour. You better be ready. Better be on your toes, down in your 3-point stance. We'll do that. Ken Barkley's going to hop on to start the final hour. Don't go anywhere. Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
Prescriptions require an online consultation.
Station. Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Brought to you by LaRogue Brothers Jewelers. Guys, today only get 1 carat diamond stud earrings for just $495. First on The Fan. A little something special for those that brave the elements to get to Moda Center Wednesday night. Anthony Simons dropping in a floater over Nick Claxton with 0.2 seconds left to beat the Nets 105-103. Jeremy Grant led the Blazers with 30 points. Portland will host the Pacers Friday night. Will they see the debut of Pascal Siakam with his new team? Indiana acquiring the All-Star forward from Toronto in exchange for Bruce Brown, Jordan Nwora, and 3 future first-round picks. Right here on The Fan tonight, college hoops. The Oregon Ducks trying to stay undefeated in Pac-12 conference play. They're in Boulder to face the Colorado Buffaloes at 7:30. Pre-game coverage starts at 7 following primetime. Buffs are 6.5-point favorites at the Spirit Mountain Casino Sportsbook. Oregon State is in Salt Lake City to take on Utah. That is a 6 p.m. tip on ESPN2. Utes 15.5-point favorites. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigart from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. Get in the game at Spirit Mountain Casino. Watch and wager on all the pro football playoff action. Learn more at SpiritMountain.com.
It's The Fan on FM. Go to 99.5 FM HD2 and enjoy high def 1080 The Fan.
Who wants cream? Nobody? Okay, no cream.
This is Dirt and Sprague.
Guys, we've made a great effort so far. Let's just keep it up.
That's right! We can't have anyone freak out there, okay? We've got to keep our composure. We've got too far. There's too much to lose. We've got to keep our composure.
With Andy Dirt Johnson and Brendan Sprague.
A lot of pressure. You got to rise above it. You got to harness in the good energy, block out the bad. Harness, energy, block, bad. Feel the flow happy. Feel it. It's circular.
Dirt and Sprague on 1080.
Hey, guys. Whoa, big gulps, huh? All right. Well, see you later.
The Fan.
Hey, let's do this. Final hour. Dirt and Sprague here on Portland Sports Leader 1080 The Fan, 99.5 HD2, the Odyssey app, and finally live on YouTube this morning. So come hang out. Got a lot to get to in the final hour of the show. A couple of basketball nuggets for you. A stat that blew my mind. Some leftover peekaboo on the divisional round of the playoffs. Lots to get to. But as he does every Thursday, joining us now on the line is those You Better You Bet. Odyssey Sports betting insider Kim Barkley. Insider calls are presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app. Also, be sure to listen to the You Better You Bet podcast. For more Kim Barkley's analysis, just search You Bet wherever you find your podcast, at Lockie Lockerson on Twitter. Go give him a follow. Ken, you've been a Northeast guy your entire life. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, I was born in Wisconsin, but when I was very young, we moved to New England.
Okay, so cold weather areas you have lived your entire life. Does it get easier to drive in ice the longer that you live in cold weather climates?
No, you just get smarter.
Oh.
The idea that somehow, like, the car driving over the ice gets easier, like it's a car and it's ice. Like there's only certain ways this can go.
Yeah.
When you're driving on, but just like when you have experience, you know not to like drive a car with really bad tires, you know, and like try to stop ever, or just, you know, you figure some things out pretty soon. Yeah, I even figured out like there's an emergency, like you downshift your car when you're going down a hill. I used to like never know how to do any of this stuff, and now I know how to do all. It's pretty cool once you learn all this stuff. Also, just don't drive in it would also be my advice. So
just stay home.
No matter what emergency techniques you learn. Yeah.
So we had that last night. Have you ever seen an NBA player get iced out of a game because our starting center DeAndre Ayton got iced out?
Can you imagine that happening last night? By the way, I was getting the alerts on my phone. Thank God I didn't. It was the only late game here on the East Coast, late game, and not a matchup you'd stay up for. Let's put it that way.
No.
Portland, the old Blazers Nets rivalry that goes back decades. The stories just start coming out, and I have all these like push notifications on my phone for like all these news accounts, because if I get stuff really fast, maybe I can bet it depending on what the story is or whatever. And I just get peppered with all these notifications, and it's basically all written a different way. Like one is just like the weather's really bad and he can't make it, and then the other one is like, no, there are sheets of ice like at his house and he can't leave. And then there's another one where it's like, you know, like he tried to make it, but it was like too slippery. And I'm just like, what is, like he did what we all do, which is like, you know, let's be honest. Sometimes the weather's not great and you just kind of all out and, you know, maybe not feeling so good today. He he had like a not sick day, except he did it publicly, and he's the center for an NBA team.
How dare you disrespect the Drazen Petrovic Bowl that we get between the Nets and the Blazers? Don't you disrespect?
We had an old media member who is probably senile say, well, why didn't the team just send a snowmobile to go get him? To which everybody responded, snowmobiles don't work on ice. There are snowmobiles.
No. Yeah, that's not how it goes. Like, I saw that too. Like, well, why can't he take an Uber? It'd be like, well, because then 2 people would die. Like, you know, like there's really no getting around this one, guys. Like, if there's a lot of ice and it's a city that doesn't budget properly to remove the ice, then there's going to be a lot of ice, and there's not really a lot you can do about it. So, yeah, I mean, it's just I can't remember that ever happening. Can you guys ever remember someone not playing in a game because they couldn't leave their house because of ice? Meanwhile, everybody else made it to the game?
Yeah, we actually had Dale Davis was a Blazer in the early 2000s. He had the exact same thing happen. He just couldn't make it in, didn't show up for the game.
I mean, but that's like Jail Blazers team. I mean, that's like how many excuses for guys not showing up to games do you have from that era? Probably dozens would be my guess.
Yeah, they were wrapping their weed in tinfoil. It's not a good thing.
Ken, I hate to do this because it's behind the scenes type thing. Could you hang on at the end of this interview because we got to get the address where to send the gift basket that I owe you from the Michigan beatdown of Alabama?
Be out on the air. It's no, I'm just kidding. I'm not
I do want. I do
give
want
you a fake number like last week. I can give you. I don't know.
You could, yeah.
I think you guys were a little taken aback by that phone number, so we won't give that one out publicly again.
Well, it's pretty aggressive. It was 1-800-SUCK-MY-D. It was like, okay,
whoa! I thought we were friends here, Ken.
Good morning, Ken.
It was suck my bleep. Yes. There wasn't a D. There wasn't a D involved.
Could have been anything.
Yes, I left a little bit more to the imagination. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Personally, I'm kind of glad you corrected that. I prefer not to suck on that, and if you got some other option, I'm in. Let me ask you. Division round weekend is my favorite in the NFL playoffs. Is it yours? In a 2-part question, was there one matchup as soon as we knew them, you instantly ran because you have a side that you liked?
It's not my favorite. I've heard so many people say that. Do you guys feel that way too? That it's your favorite weekend?
It's always kind of been mine. Yeah, I didn't like the expansion of the wild card, even though for the first time we had 7 seed win. The other game, I think largely we're going to get teams that probably shouldn't be in the playoffs in it because the NFL wants numbers and money and whatnot. And the conference title game's awesome, but it's only the 2 games. I like having I think the amount of games is perfect for my weekend.
It's it's fun. I mean, I think there are some other weekends. The first weekend of the NCAA tournament is I think just better. There's way more games. It's all day. There are more surprising results. Everything's occurring faster. That's definitely a better weekend, I think. Some of the golf major weekends I actually really enjoy when it's on the whole day, like the U.S. Open on Saturday and Sunday if somebody's in it can be really fun too. But kind of to each their own. And it's not that divisional's bad. I'll tell you what I actually hate too. This is a little old man yelling at cloud. It didn't used to be 3 and 6:30 on Sunday. It didn't it used to be earlier in the day. The divisional games used to be 1 and 4:30. And I don't like staying up until 10:15 on Sunday night watching an NFL play. I don't want that. I want to go to bed. I want to get ready for my Monday.
Right.
I got my Sunday scaries going, and it's 9 o'clock, and it's the start of the fourth quarter. And it's gonna, and of course, because of a rating, they'll put Chiefs Bills on in that slot because it'll do the best. And then now it's it's gonna be tied with 2 minutes left, and I kind of liked it when it was earlier. I guess this is a big time East Coast problems thing for you guys though, because you're noon and 3:30 and leave me alone. Basically.
Yeah, it's perfect for us. Yeah.
Well, wait. So what do you guys like? There was not a game that I sprinted to go bet, and I think what kind of proves that out is none of the numbers have changed basically whatsoever since they opened. The Lions got bet a little bit from 6 to 6.5 against Tampa, but everything else is kind of exactly the same. Did you guys have that happen? Was there one game where you were like, "Oh my God"? I don't feel like it's that kind of weekend.
No, I don't know if it's that kind of weekend. The only one that I just like because I wasn't sure if it was going to go up or not was Buffalo. I think Buffalo at home. I like the way they're playing, and I still don't trust Kansas City's offense, and I'm not going to overreact to them beating a Hawaiian quarterback in freezing temperatures. And so I just like Buffalo at home. The momentum seems to be on their side. Mahomes never been on the road before, and I got it less than 3. I was worried it was going to go north of 3, and so I just jumped on that 2.5. That's the only bet I got for the weekend so far.
Hawaiian quarterbacks catching strays in that answer. That was a little tough.
Yeah, come on, it's minus 30. He's got a weak arm. What do you want from him?
Yeah, it's what do you want? They played a team that's like Tampa, right?
Yes.
Congrats, you played a team that had quit already.
Yes.
That's pretty cool. Good job, guys. That literally, I've never seen. This kind of reminds me, I'm not very good at Madden. I think most men are probably at least pretty good at playing Madden. I kind of suck at it. And one thing I could never figure out is just form tackling and I would always move the joystick I'd have the guy in position, and then I would just like not tackle him. Yeah. I would just be like next to him, or I would dive, and diving is always the worst thing because then you're like totally out of the play. That like people feel like if you were playing against a 5-year-old in that, and then they were trying to move the players around to tackle, that was the Eagles' defense on Monday night. I mean, they like kind of moved in position, and then they hit the dive button, or they hit the go to Cancun button, or go to Hawaii button to see Tua or something like that. It was pretty crazy. I have a theory on these games though. So I don't have like one bet that I love. I kind of like Buffalo at 2.5 also, to be fair. Mm-hmm. But I think a theory that we're going to talk about on our show today, we've been off for the last couple of days because we host shows over the weekend now. A theory that we kind of are cooking up here a little bit in the 3 games that are not Kansas City, Buffalo. So Houston, Baltimore on Saturday afternoon, Green Bay, San Francisco late game Saturday, Tampa, Detroit. All 3 of those games feature pretty big point spreads, right? Like 2 9.5s and a 6.5, and totals like kind of in the normal range. Is there a case that in all 3 games, if the dog covers, like if Houston covers a big number, or Green Bay covers a big number, or Tampa covers a big number, is the case that in all 3 of those situations, does the game have to go over the total if that happens? That's something we're going to talk about today. Like, are we literally just parlaying dog and over? And normally that's not correlated. Usually it's favorite and over is correlated, because if like a favorite covers by a lot, there's going to be a lot of points if they're big. But like, the Niners are going to score a lot. Like, it's going to happen no matter what. And to be fair, that's what I said about Dallas, and I was right. They did score a lot. They just allowed a lot.
Yeah.
Like, if Green Bay covers, how does Green Bay cover 9.5 and, like, hold the Niners to 10 points? Like, how does that, like, that doesn't happen. Like, that's not how it's going to go. They're going to cover by a shootout, basically. And the Texans are going to cover, and Lamar Jackson and the Ravens offense at home is going to score 13 points. Like, that's going to happen against the Texans defense? That seems really unlikely. So it's not that the dog has to cover, but I think in all those situations, the Lions aren't scoring on Tampa's defense a lot. Like, that's not going to happen. So just, if you like the dog, do you just parlay them with the over in every single one of those situations so that, like, if they do cover, it has to be that kind of game? I think that's what we're talking about today.
If you were to remove Kansas City, Buffalo, because we've seen great games from them, do you feel like we're going to get competitive games? Or, I mean, I know what you're talking about with what you're going to bring up on the show today with your theory, but sure. Green Bay against San Francisco.
What do I think is going to happen?
Yeah, like Houston last weekend was a pretty big surprise, I think, to most of the gambling world, because a lot of the money was on Cleveland. It was a small number. Houston's young. We had talked last week about Houston and how do you feel about D'Amico Ryans and all that. And then they just bludgeoned the Browns. The Browns just get undressed. The defense is awful. Flacco's Flacco again, and goodbye Cleveland. Well, now Houston has to go to Baltimore and take on a really good Ravens Lamar team. I'm a little worried in this sense of, are there great games outside of the one obvious one where we've seen them have great games at this stage?
Yeah, especially with both of the big favorites being on Saturday, right? Yeah. Like, are you going to get skunked on Saturday? Your guys' favorite weekend of the year? Are you going to get skunked on one of the days? That'd be really tough. Like two 9.5-point favorites. I mean, and how many people are sure? The funny thing is, when this schedule first got announced, I always like to think first, what is everyone going to want to bet? I just think it's that shouldn't like dictate what you bet. I just think it's fun to think about. And my first thought is, like everyone's just going to parlay the Ravens and the Niners to win because they're like big favorites, except that's not what's happening so far. And we have this really interesting dynamic in both games where, because the Texans killed it last week and played great, and both teams actually they won the same way, right? Unbelievable quarterback play, like generate explosive pass plays down the field. Both quarterbacks had a perfect passer rating, I think, in their start last week, or at least close to it. Stroud and Jordan Love. Both underdogs have drawn a lot of interest, even from the betting public so far this week. That is not saying the favorites are going to cover, just that normally in these games, it's like, like all-time team at home 9.5, like the dog has no chance. A lot of people think both dogs have a chance. I'm sort of skeptical of that. I just think there's Baltimore and San Francisco had 2 of the best 15 to 20 regular seasons ever by a lot of measurement, both of them. It's very rare to have 2 of those in the same season. And they, I don't know if they're going to play in the Super Bowl, but like teams like that, I don't think they get tripped up by teams like this. Now, the quarterbacks are compelling, and maybe they play great again. Maybe they cover the number, keep it close. It's just a really bad setup, I think, for both. Like, these are all-time good regular season teams. I'm not sure you're going to get a great game. You can get a cover by a dog. I don't know if you're going to get a great game. I think Tampa's kind of live against Detroit, actually, just because of, like, I don't trust Detroit's like coaching and decision making, and we know their defense is brutal. Are they going to truck a team? Like, they couldn't do it last week. They gave up 1 billion yards and should have given up 1 billion points. The Rams couldn't score in the red zone. Yeah. Are they going to like blow out Tampa with that defense? That seems unlikely to me.
Interesting. Yeah, that's the one. I mean, everybody in the country is rooting for Detroit, but if they have a letdown game, I don't think it surprises anybody. To your point on the red zone stuff too. I mean, the Rams are scoring touchdowns in that game. They're up by 14 early, like kind of right out of the gate. Right. So I hope we get good matchups. I tend to look at these and kind of, I'm fearful that we're going to get widespread margins, but I think though you could get the payoff the next weekend, right? I think if you get like Baltimore, Buffalo, San Francisco, Detroit in the AFC NFC title game, at least maybe it makes up for it. If you get widespreads outside of Tampa, any action on Green Bay or Texans money line, like any bold moves like that, or no?
If I was going to bet one of them, I'd probably bet Green Bay, actually.
Okay.
Just because there's so much familiarity between those coaches and those teams where, like, that can maybe overcome kind of the newness of being in it. Houston's just in a completely unfamiliar spot that they've never been in before. Green Bay and San Francisco, like, these coaches played each other 2 years ago in this round in Green Bay. Like, there's at least some sense of, like, we know the other team, we know what they do. Now, maybe they can't stop it. But, like, if I was going to bet either, I'd bet the Packers. I'm not going to bet either team to win. I don't think that's what we're going to get.
So what is, quickly, Ken, we'll go on this. What is your favorite bet of the weekend?
I'll say like Buffalo or Tampa. I would love for Tampa to get to 7, and I don't know if it's going to happen.
It's at 7 right now here on Vegas Insider. I'm looking on one of the books. It says 7, so maybe it is increasingly going to 7 at some point.
So I see, 6.5's like juice toward Detroit a little bit, but like 7 minus 110 on Tampa would be, I think, amazing. And I would probably parlay them with the over. There's just no way. That's a low-scoring game if they cover. So maybe like a plan of attack there. I like Buffalo a little bit against Kansas City as well. The 2 blowout potential games, I don't know. They feel like they should be big favorites, and it feels like those are 2 really good teams that should be favored by a lot. I don't really have an angle there.
Well, hopefully it's a great weekend. It is one of the better sporting weekends of the year. Maybe not the best, but we're excited for it. He is the host of You Better You Bet, Odyssey Sports Betting Insider, Ken Barkley. Insider calls are presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app and give him a follow on Twitter at Lockie Lockerson. Thanks as always, Ken. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll chat again next Thursday.
All right, sounds good, guys. Thanks.
There you go. Ken Barkley. Good stuff from him on the weekend. And I tend to agree with everything you say. I was just looking on DraftKings. Still 6.5.
Is it 6.5 on that
Detroit,
one?
Tampa
I didn't want to say it because DraftKings is the one on Vegas Insider that's at 7. We'll have to monitor it. This is my fault. I actually didn't mean of the year.
Oh, I know. He misinterpreted that. Yeah. It's not the best sporting event weekend of the year. There's other ones that maybe it's
certainly in the conversation though.
It's up there. The NFL playoffs are usually great. I hope I'm wrong, man. I wouldn't be mad about upsets and tight games and competitive stuff. I hope that I'm wrong. I
came in excited, and you've peed all over my excitement because I think you and a lot of other people kind of look at these matchups and think, yeah, last weekend was fun for different reasons, but is C.J. Stroud going to go into Baltimore and keep that close?
It's different, man. This isn't the Cowboys who choke in the playoffs every year or the Eagles who just flat out quit. The Philadelphia Eagles just flat out quit. You're not going to get that this weekend, so maybe we get upsets, but we'll see. Let's get to a couple of notes. One stat that blew me away. Will this work, and why are we so butthurt? That's coming up next on The Fan.
We like threesomes.
The answer is
All right, this blew my mind. I want to see if it blew your mind. We'll also play the fun game of who's the Texas head coach because he got all butthurt last night.
I admittedly did not know who I thought that was Gus Fring when I saw the video.
It kind of looks like him, doesn't it?
Looks
That's a good call.
just like him.
I don't know if you guys saw this last night or if you had the same reaction if you didn't see it when I'm about to tell you. I saw this and I thought my mind was melting. And then you think about it, you're like, I mean, I get it, but still mind melting.
Okay.
This is a LeBron James stat. Did you see this floating around the socials last night?
You know, I saw this. I saw it, and I know you're going to give the number. My brain didn't melt because instantly I thought, this probably applied in a bigger percentage for Kareem, didn't it?
I guess
Kareem
that's a good
also
point.
played till he was like 42 years old.
I guess that's a good point.
Robert Parrish, like the chief, like he probably had something like. I think
league was smaller then too, so there weren't
that's
as
what
many
I'm
players.
saying. I think we're trying to find every possible statistic with LeBron being old.
Yeah.
And I said at the beginning of the year, like, I get it, I'm wowed by it, but like also just every day it has to be something.
Let me ask, did you see any of these LeBron stats last night, Swag? Did you see this on socials? Okay. So I'm going to ask you to guess this then. Okay. Let's see where he comes in on this number. LeBron James in his career has played against what percentage of NBA players in the history of the league?
Ooh, so the league is approaching 80 years.
So what percentage of NBA players all time
has he played a quarter of it? And there's more. I would say 35%.
That's exactly what it is. 35%.
35% of the league.
See, I think
I see your point about the longevity and all that. I read that. You just when you read it, you're like, almost half of the
when the league started in whatever, there were like 8 teams.
It's truly a great stat for longevity. Yeah. I actually thought the other thing was way cooler and more impressive than that stat.
What's the other thing? What else
he was on ABC at the exact same time that Bronny was on ESPN.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
They were both playing last night?
He started a little later than Bron because Bron had a 5:30 game against the Mavs. But Bronny played Arizona in Tucson, and there's a really cool moment. He's in the locker room being interviewed. They beat the Mavs. And he's being interviewed, but he's like not paying attention. He's watching Bronny, and he's like, the guy asks him a question. He starts answering it. In the middle of his answer, he goes, "Shoot it," and then he gets back into his answer. Like,
that's pretty cool.
I think that's cooler to me than like, hey, he's played for 20 years. I know he's played against a lot of people.
It's like a real life love in basketball. Does Bronny have a neighbor that he's dating right now? How's that work out?
I would maybe.
Don't cheat on. Hopefully, LeBron doesn't cheat on his wife. That happened in that movie. Good movie, classic movie. We now know.
Movie, classic
tangent right there. We now know because we saw this last night who the Texas head coach was. But if you would have asked me on the show yesterday, hey, Dirt, who's the head coach of Texas basketball? I probably would have said Shaka Smart, even though I know that's wrong.
I can't believe you came in today and you're like, I thought it was Shaka Smart. I'm like, he's at Marquette.
Was this his third year at Marquette?
I don't know.
They had the kinky coach after him.
I remember the kinky coach.
Now he's at Ole Miss because Ole Miss has no shame.
Look, I'm anti-college hoops right now because they are blackballing my Oregon Ducks from being in the top 25, and it doesn't make sense. If they were in the Big 10 and 11-3 or 12-3,
they're undefeated after this weekend.
But that's ridiculous.
This is dumb.
We need another weekend.
They didn't get a win worth anything in the non-conference.
They're 5-0 in Pac-12 play. They're 12-3. Go look at every team in the top 25 and tell me how many quality wins they have in the non-conference.
You can't do it.
It's just ridiculous. They're like 55 in net rating. Washington State is ahead of them in net rating, and Oregon beat Washington State in Washington State, and they have a better record than them. Make that make sense.
Analytics.
You can't. It's stupid. College basketball is broken. Anywho, here's the head coach of Texas. His name is Rodney Terry. Fact of the day.
Where did he come from?
I don't know.
Is he from this, like the previous staff? Was he an internal hire, or did he come from a different program?
Well, they were playing Central Florida at home last night, and they blew like a 16-point lead or something in the second half.
Central Florida's all of a sudden the giant killers in the Big 12.
It's a huge Big 12 matchup, UCF and Texas.
It's a vicious battle of Big 12 powerhouses. And at the end of the game, UCF wins. They win in Austin. It's a big win. They did the horns down. They're celebrating, and the coach walked through the handshake line, called them all classless. He said, "You're classless." After the game, he was asked, "Hey, why'd you say that?" Here's his answer.
I'm a big believer in, you win the right way, you lose the right way. And, I always tell my guys, Whether you win or lose, you win the right way. You lose the right way. You carry yourself the right way. You don't go through the handshake line or prior to getting to the handshake line and have about 6 or 7 guys putting the horns down. We don't do that, because when you do those kind of things, it looks very classless, and it also looks like you were just hoping to win. We never go into games trying to hope to win. We go into games expecting to win. So we don't act like that. We expect to win. We don't jump up and down act like we won a national championship. We sure don't step on anyone's home court deal and act crazy and try to show them up in any way. We don't do that. So that's what I was angry about, and I was letting those guys know you don't do that. You guys won. Hey, we shake your hand, tip our hat to you, but we're not gonna let you act that way in our building. You're not gonna do that. You're not gonna put your horns down and do all that nonsense.
I mean, they did.
They did. They won, and they did it.
And your team wouldn't put horns down because you're the horns. So,
why?
Why do you care about the other team?
Well, I don't know. Horns down for Texas
is a thing. It's a thing.
Like,
win the game.
Insulting your mother. Like, it's like,
get a life.
Any Longhorn will drop gloves and look to fight.
But
at any moment, I don't get it.
Don't you love? I loved Dye doing the dubs down in the interview. I love when people do the O and then break it over their knee. I love when the U is turned upside down. That's sports.
Get over yourself.
And by the way, we don't go in the game hoping to win. Okay, you're making a weird difference between expecting and hoping. It's UCF. They were 8-point dogs on the road, down 16 in Austin. And they came back and won a good game. That's a good win for UCF. They're in the moment. The emotions are running
on the road.
There was chirping from Texas when they were up
the
big.
Longhorns weren't chirping and talking trash at all during there.
It's a butthurt dirt moment right here. What are we doing?
I also love we go in expecting to win. They're 1-3 in Big 12 play. So I don't know if you should be expecting to win anything right now, but
did he not sound like John Cheney? I had flashbacks of Calipari walking in and
he had a little bit of that quiet raspy, listen to what I'm saying. I couldn't unsee it when you said that.
Is there a more sensitive thing that happens in college sports than Texas fan to the horn down? Is there one that riles people up more than that? That fan base more than that?
I don't know because they actually asked for flags to be thrown in football games if that was seen.
You can't do it in football games now. You'll get a 15-yard personal foul penalty.
Well, good luck to this coach in the SEC. Does he think he's going to go to Kentucky and get no horns down thrown at him? It's ridiculous.
Act like you've been there before, okay?
But Texas has never been there in basketball.
The ball to the ref. This is so stupid. Somebody saying he was an assistant under Beard.
Oh, okay. So he was an internal hire. Okay.
Yeah, it's internal. They promoted him after he got all weird with his girlfriend. I think all those charges ended up getting dropped, right? He got off scot-free from that thing. That was kind of a he said, she said. And
no, I think it was I'm saying he did this, and now I'm saying it's not quite as bad as I said it was. And let's move on
Josh
here.
Giddey, if you will. Those charges are now dropped. Josh Giddey's good to go.
God, that was weird watching.
Yeah, everybody clammed up when the police came around asking questions.
They
Nobody
did.
said anything.
The family would not cooperate.
I don't have a case. What do you want me to do?
I'm not going to say that. Okay, I want to get to a couple other notes.
What were you going to say?
It's inappropriate.
What were you going to say?
It's inappropriate, and I like my job.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, don't be classless.
Don't act like you've been there before. Act like
God. You know what I would have been? College and high school Sprague would have been horns downing your ass so hard. What was the kid? Who was the kid looked like a shark? He played at Ole Miss. He was a big story for a while, but he was never a real pro prospect. He shot the ball.
Oh, I know who you're talking
Henderson,
about.
Marshall Henderson?
Yes.
Is that who the guy?
Is that what his name was?
Sure.
Marshall Henderson?
I think it was Marshall Henderson.
Yeah.
I mean, my first year,
I would have been Marshall Henderson. I would have been on the
Henderson, yeah,
on the play-by-play table, the check-in table.
He's now 33 years old.
Flaunting my jersey at you, horns downing your asses. I would have been all over that.
I was at my first year at Oregon was when Kevin Love came and played at the Pit, and I was a part of that.
That crossed the line.
I was a part of that.
Oh. Yeah, I have a still shot of Dirt saying stuff.
Yeah. The first college basketball game I ever went to, you guys remember Ryan Appleby at Washington?
Oh, I do.
Mm-hmm. There was somebody in the student section who just had a sign that said, Ryan Appleby has AIDS. That was the sign.
You know, this is going to sound really awful.
So I'm not going to criticize horns down. That seems PC to me.
I'm not a big fan, obviously, of the homophobic language people used back in the Kevin Love days. What I would say, though, is in that moment, it felt like the Pac-10 was like
Had some juice.
It had juice,
It
man.
did.
We hated
Matt
each
Court
other.
used to have juice. That was one of the best. I mean,
well, I'd say Oregon State, but I went to those games and they went 0-18 in conference play. So
things are great.
You know.
Hey, will this work? Are we putting any stock in it? Will it help the league if more teams do it? I want to get to that coming up next, but first, here's Swag with Sports Center.
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Brought to you by Crunch Fitness. Only 24 cents to enroll this January. Find your Crunch Time in Portland, Vancouver, and online at crunch.com. First on the Fan. A nice little present from the Trailblazers for the fans that brave the elements to get to Moda Center. Game winner with under a second to go from Anthony Simons to beat the Nets 105-103. Jeremy Grant had 30 to lead the way. Portland will host the Pacers Friday night. Will they see the debut of Pascal Siakam with his new team? Indiana acquiring the All-Star forward from Toronto in exchange for Bruce Brown, Jordan Nwora, and 3 future first-round draft picks. Can the Ducks stay undefeated in Pac-12 conference play tonight? They are on the road to take on the Colorado Buffaloes. 7:30 tip right here on the Fan. Pre-game coverage at 7 following primetime. Buffaloes 6.5-point favorites at the Spirit Mountain Casino Sportsbook. Meanwhile, the Beavers are on the road in Salt Lake City to take on Utah. 6 o'clock tip on ESPN2. Utes are 15.5-point favorites. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigart from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. Get in the game at Spirit Mountain Casino. Watch and wager on all the pro football playoff action. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
One number does it all for contests and This is Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
All right, we don't have a lot of time here. I want to know if you guys think this will work. Look at me. Look at Basketball Dirt checking in for duty on divisional round of the playoffs.
I love it.
Pascal Siakam traded yesterday. What's it like to root for a team that tries? Would like to know at some point.
I also loved that they made a move that changed their circumstance by 2 games, according to Vegas.
That's all it was 2 games. That's all they got.
And their title odds barely moved. Yeah. And they also have to re-sign him, and he also has to want to re-sign in Indiana.
Yes. I imagine that'll happen, though, right?
Initial reports seem to indicate that will be the case.
I wouldn't trust an initial report to save your life.
That's
on
fair.
That.
My team calls their guy who makes game winners Himothy, but then drafted his replacement with the 3rd overall pick.
Well, it's not a replacement. It's his. It's his partner.
But they're both.
But we also have another guy playing the 2.
Yeah. So
Hemi Neutron.
That's him, baby. One of the things. I think the NBA is always looking for ways to spice up their product, right? Always, how do we make this a little more interesting in the regular season?
How do we make us relevant?
Yes, exactly. Right. In-season tournament help. Numbers were good. Spent a lot of money. We'll see how it goes from here. I saw this the other day. I laughed because of the organization that's doing it, but I wondered, this has happened from time to time in the past, and I remember it being kind of cool, and then it kind of fades into obscurity. So the Clippers are coming out with their new arena, the Intuit Dome.
Yeah.
It's coming out. Is it open next year?
Yeah, and they get the All-Star game.
And they're getting
in 26.
Come on. I mean, it's not like Portland's had an All-Star game anytime soon. They, in their stadium, are going to have a section that they call the wall. So it's going to be behind one of the hoops.
Yeah.
And it's basically built straight up and down. So it's not the same bowl shape as the rest of the arena. It's kind of this steep climb. And they're going to have rules for those tickets. If you want to sit in the quote-unquote wall at the Clipper games, you cannot cheer for the opposing team. I don't know what that means. They throw you out? I don't know how that works.
How do you even police that?
I don't know.
Somebody comes in with some fake Clipper gear and then takes it off. He's a Rockets fan.
He's a Laker fan. That's what it'll happen. You cannot wear opposing gear.
Okay.
In that section.
All right.
Tickets in that section can only be resold if you're not going to the game. You're trying to resell your tickets only in the Clippers marketplace.
Okay.
So you can't just throw them on some random ticket site. And they're trying to make this this is our essentially student section of college hoops, right? Your Cameron crazies.
Right.
It's a wall behind the hoop. Let's get crazy. Everybody go loud. No opposing fans. I laughed because it's the Clippers and the Clippers don't have fans. But the idea did spark the interest in me of I'll watch NBA games sometimes and the atmospheres aren't great in some markets. And I don't think you could do this in every market. But in the markets you could, would something like this
we'll see
make
if they
it more
can
interesting?
pull it off. I wonder if you truly wanted to get diehard fans, are they going to make the tickets truly affordable?
Big question.
Or are they going to still look for $125 a ticket? If you make those tickets in the $40 to $50 range, I don't know how close that thing is to the floor.
It goes all the way down to the floor, basically. According to the pictures, it does.
You can't find those tickets at those seats at the Portland Trailblazer games now. You're not $40 to $50.
Are there actual seats, or is it like standing room only?
Actual seats.
Actual seats.
Oh, okay.
Actual seats.
And he built it after the Game of Thrones wall. Winter is coming. What I would say is you're the second team in your city.
You are.
So you're trying to do this rah, we exist, we matter, we're important.
Yeah.
That dude has been full of crap his entire career as an owner, and even before. He's claimed his entire life he wanted to bring the Sonics back. He refused to pay $150 million to renovate Key Arena.
Developers.
And instead of maybe moving the Clippers out of L.A. because L.A. shouldn't have 2 basketball teams, he just doubled down and built a stadium because L.A. money, I want to be greedy.
Yeah.
Look, fun idea. He also in the same press conference highlighted, if you're loud and you're there, might rip off some discounts for you guys on the merch store.
It's a pretty good idea.
Cool. 20% off on a shirt that costs $80. I can't wait to pay that price. I hear what you're saying.
Uh-huh.
My only pushback is somebody who watches, and I'll admit, haven't watched as much, but still watches a lot of NBA basketball. I think your good settings, your teams who are good, your normal.
It's good enough atmospheres as is.
You want college. That's not going to happen. You don't have 19-year-olds who are getting hammered, passing bottles around secretly in their student sections.
Yeah.
That's just not. The good cities are the good cities. When they're good, they're loud. They're great. Oklahoma City. I hate that they stole the team. They've been spoiled basically their entire lives. They had a few bad seasons, but they've always been good.
I
and
go
gotten
back
good
to
players.
that Pacers game in the in-season quarterfinals,
Fantastic.
the one they hosted.
Yes.
It felt like an NBA playoff game.
Yeah, I think the ones when they're good, they're great. You don't need to rival college. Like you can't
I think it
duplicate
would be,
that.
Sure, I think it would be. First, I want to say Milwaukee did this a number of years ago. Do you guys remember that in like the Bogut, Monte Ellis days? I want to say they had like a Fear the Deer section that they tried to cultivate with a loud crowd. I can't remember where it was.
I think that's not remembering kind of answers wherever you're going with what you're going.
So I think it was more so not college isn't necessarily the example. I think it would be more like
the MLS, like
soccer, like European soccer,
Timbers
where you have
Army
cheering and singing, and there's an atmosphere, and there's a. But I see your point that a lot of this is dependent on. And maybe it's just because the only NBA games I'm watching right now are in Portland and the stadium's half full, and somehow people are still celebrating a win like any of this matters. But maybe I'm a little jaded in that. But I did find it interesting that it feels like basketball is kind of going in that direction of wanting to follow European soccer with in-season tournaments and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then I saw this section thing, and I'm like, all right, let's just give scarves and start singing the entire game.
Yeah, I saw there was a clip, a picture, and I forget the player, but he's a former NBA player. He's playing in Europe somewhere, and it was a still shot. And behind him is all of these flags.
Dude, they go nuts in European basketball.
Right, and somebody quoted it and said, imagine if they got to play in front of this in the NBA. And the person got dunked on, and rightfully so. The atmospheres, I mean, dude, you, me, Swag, we've all been in the Moto or the Rose Garden when that team is good and it's against a good opponent and they're winning. Time out! That place gets as loud. And by the way, hot take. Don't want a flag in my view. Don't want a vuvuzela in my ear. Can we just cheer? Do a little bit of like, dun, 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 and I'm good. I don't need a flag. I don't need a vuvuzela.
Staying Alive song right there?
It's, yeah, well, whatever. All I do is win-win. That atmosphere is fine enough. It's not an atmosphere problem. You want a big-ass flag waving in front of your viewpoint of the court?
I don't want to see the BYU student section all of a sudden at NBA games.
Do they do that with flags at BYU?
Oh, they got all sorts of nonsense up there.
I remember going to
What flags are they flying?
No, they would do these like spinning visual, like the black and like the visual deception sort of thing.
Oh, to like distract from the free throws. Michael Phelps in a Speedo at Arizona State.
They got big fat heads and all sorts of nonsense.
Well, I mean, look, it's different for an obvious reason, and every Duck fan has highlighted it. Mm-hmm. But like aiming to have the college atmosphere, Oregon's really effing good. Dana Altman has to send out videos begging for people to come to their games still.
Hey, passionate fan base.
It's not it's not a shot. It's a venue problem. You made a mini NBA arena when you had one of the coolest throwback venues in college hoops, and instead of just renovating and keeping, we had to build a monstrosity of an arena.
I've never been to a Timbers game before. Maybe that's not a good thing to admit, but I have been to a Sounders game, and I sat in their section, their fans, whatever they call their fans at the Sounders games, and it was my first ever MLS game. We were like 20 rows up from the field, and there were people in front of us waving flags the entire game, and I couldn't see anything. There was a goal that was scored and everybody reacted, and I was like, what happened? I don't know.
Yeah, you know what you end up doing? You end up watching on TV on the Jumbotron.
Yes. I'm like singing the songs. Like, all right, I'm kind of drunk. This is fun, I guess, but I can't see the game, so what's the whole point? All right, well, it's probably not going to work for the Clippers because they don't have fans anyways, but I saw it and thought it was interesting. Let's wrap it up. Send you on your way on a Thursday next on The Fan.
The Herd with Colin Cowherd.
freezing rain might be on the way today. You guys had your fill yet?
I was shocked you guys didn't see this. I saw this last night, and I told my wife, and she goes, "You're not joking, are you?" I go, "No, Fox 12 says we might get freezing rain again on Thursday night."
Dear God, make it stop.
I heard it's more of an issue on the east side because the east wind is blowing.
Oh, where do you
up
live
the
there?
gorge.
I live on the east. I'm about as far east as you can get.
Yeah.
I'm closer to Mount Hood than you are.
Yes, you are. You're further east than I am.
The west side should not get much, if any.
Well, it's fun. I'm having a great time.
I will be honest. We are already getting ahead of this because we have to be the ones that do this. If we cannot get in with the show tomorrow, first, apologies. I'm just not risking my life for 3 hours of radio.
Easy, DeAndre Ayton.
But second, we had a listener said he actually bought my buddy's house, and I know where he lives. You can't get down that driveway.
Yeah, it's one of those steep ones.
And second, if that happens, show note, we are looking to go live on YouTube at 9 a.m.
9 a.m.
So, yes, we are going to sleep in. Sorry, but we are looking to go live on YouTube. We'll do a YouTube-only show if this happens again. Again, our apologies. Blame Mother Nature.
All right. Anything going on tonight in sports? What do we got? What's on the docket?
Can your Ducks stay undefeated in conference play?
Who we got tonight?
At Colorado, 6.5-point dogs on the road.
Buffs, get out of here. Is
Beavs
Dion walking through that tunnel?
Beavs are 15.5-point favorites.
You got an interesting Siakam.
Utah's that bad?
Yeah, Utah's terrible.
No, the Beavs are 15.5-point underdogs at Utah.
Well, Morgan State's worse.
I was going to say they're 15-point favorites against somebody in the conference.
Pacers with Pascal Siakam against the Kings.
First game tonight? Okay, is it on
Sacramento?
TV?
Yeah.
TNT game?
No.
Oh.
No, that is Grizzlies Timberwolves, actually, so you can watch.
Why are the Grizzlies on national television?
The Bulls at the Raptors is the first game.
Why are the Bulls on national television? Why are the Raptors on national television?
Because the NBA, sport-wise, is as good as ever. The league is stupid.
There you go. We went to Detroit for the Daily Ticker. Go check that. Service Patriots Podcast, 1080thefan.com, at Dirt and Sprague and at 1080 The Fan. Thanks so much for being a part of our Thursday. Hopefully we talk to you tomorrow at 6 a.m. Colin is next. Listening to 1080 The Fan.
I'm Krista Crick with BetQL.